Welcome to the Growth Project. This is Dr. Milt Louder. So excited today to have my good friend, our guest, Chris Fay. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
And if you are new to the podcast, the Growth Project, it's a byproduct of AMPLOS, which is a performance psychology practice in Greenville, South Carolina. We exist really twofold to help people be better and pursue better. We work in a lot of different areas and arenas to optimize who people are, what they do, not only help them try to be the best that they can be at work, but really to be their best for the people that matter most to them. And what we hope this podcast brings to you is some inspiration, some education, application, and we're going to tell it through stories and experiences with friends and colleagues, through our own observations in our work, and hopefully provide in a way that is meaningful to you. So thank you for joining us. So excited, as I mentioned, my good friend Chris Fay, and a lot of different hats. It's been such a privilege from where I sit to really be a partner in that process of growth, not only in TPM, which you are the president and CEO, and we'll talk a little bit more about the print machine, and I love the history and what the TPM is all about and how you put your own stamp on that, but now the founder and CEO of TrebleHook, and your dreams for that. And really, I guess we got together 2018, maybe in that ballpark. You were just named president.
Yep, that's right.
And before we dive in a little bit of really where I think you've done an excellent job around vision and values and holding on to a legacy, taking over for your father-in-law and running a family business, which is not easy. But kind of where you're going. But help me listen and understand your story a little bit. How'd you get to this point in your career? Maybe even coming out of college, and what the dream was, and how that put you here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a long lineage of stories, and one of the things that I've told people in the past is you don't realize how much past experiences shape your future. Like these things that I've experienced in my life ultimately have made me who I am today, and now being a little bit more mature and working with you and just kind of growing companies and seeing that I've seen how these different experiences in my life have really shaped me. And so yeah, I grew up in Atlanta, went to Clemson, graduated Clemson with a construction science degree.
And the dream was there, the vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, I actually wanted to go in the military. So I went to Quantico and trained with the Marines when I was in college. Thought I wanted to go into the military, and then had a really big life decision to not do that. And that went back to my parents, and my parents had divorced at an early age, and I always had a goal of mine that I wanted to be married and have a family and have a business, and divorce was something that I never wanted to have to experience. And so what I wanted to do in the military was not conducive for family life. Yeah. And so I had a point in my career in college where I had to decide, do I want to pursue what I feel like I'm really passionate about with the military and risk some of the original goals that I had been thinking about, or do I want to pursue business and family and all these other components, and decided to leave the military behind and really focus on business and family.
So we always talk about when our values come into conflict. Mm-hmm. And so that's an early inflection point of something you're really passionate about and feel called to do, and compared with something else you feel passionate about and feeling called to do. So go back to the early decision making of that. How'd you get to that decision? How'd you make that decision?
Yeah, I think honestly there was just the way that I was raised. I had very involved parents. Even though my parents were divorced, I really looked at I had two sets of parents. And they were super involved in my life, and they loved me, and I attribute the way that they raised me to the way that I parent today, and the way that I lead, and the way that I care for people is because they really cared for me. And I think some of my grace and perspective and some of the things that I really focus on in my life came from them. And so, I just always had this desire and yearning to have kids and to be in the business world and to have a wife and a family. And it was just always a part of like how I was wired. And so, but then I also had this strong individual urge to go serve my country and like really get pretty heavily advanced in the military. And I just knew, and I don't know what had me happen. I think I was talking to my recruiter at some point, and he was actually going through a divorce at the time, and it was that quite honestly, it was that decision that I sat down and I said, I've got two paths that I now know can't exist together.
Yeah.
And I have to make a decision on one of them. And whichever decision I decide, I'm not going to look back. I'm going to be completely confident, no regrets. And I don't have any regrets today about the decision.
Wow.
And but I know that time that I spent in Quantico, that's one of the pieces that shaped me and drive and motivation and leadership. And so, kind of going through, I just look at these inflection points that, it just all maybe came together. I haven't messed it up yet. Maybe I will at some point. But yeah, that was probably one of the most challenging inflection point decisions I had to make in my life.
Yeah, at an early age. But I love kind of the perspective you have now, how grateful you were just for that opportunity.
Right.
And we talk about how important it is to life to minimize regrets. And so I love hearing that early on. Both paths are really good, but this is what I chose. So construction science, business, graduate Clemson. Kind of where are we there? What's going on?
Yeah, so I switched my major, went into construction science, loved it. I mean, I just loved, in high school, I always worked for general contractors and I built stuff, and I'm a builder. It's in my individual purpose statement. I love building stuff, right? And so physically, I like building stuff and conceptually as well. And so construction was an easy play for me. And honestly, it taught me finance, it taught me science, it taught me leadership, and it satisfied that need for putting things together. So I graduated and went to work for Harper Corporation, general contractors here in Greenville, and they had just started and got the contract for the River Place development downtown. They needed an assistant project manager, and so I started working for them on that project. And probably I would say 4 to 6 months into the job. So, I start working before I graduate college, probably in February of 2004. And by the summertime, my boss on the job had left the company.
Okay.
And at that time, they didn't replace him. And so I was, to some extent, left as kind of the key project manager
right out of
college. No experience. I had an $11 million contract with this person, $8 million. I think it was $21 million in construction value, and obviously I had some support from Harper, from the leadership there. But the day to day was me, and just one of the things I know about myself is that I learn. I'm an experience-based learner. So you throw me in it, I'm going to learn it, right? Yep. And that's the fastest way for me to learn. And so I got thrown into the fire, and I got an MBA in construction and business management and leadership and whatever, all in a couple of years on the River Place development, and built some extremely lasting relationships. And it taught me a lot. It taught me how to deal with people that are making $10, $11 an hour, and to meet them at their level and understand what they need, and to work with some of the most wealthy people that are in our region and successful people. And so, came out and spent a good amount of time there at Harper. But I always had this desire to own my own company. I always wanted to do my own thing. And I don't know where that came from, because my family was not entrepreneurial really by nature. But I just had this desire, and this, whether it was independence or what have you, to go and just create my own path. And so in 2007, I was starting a construction company, got my unlimited general contractor's license. I was getting my LLC set up. I was meeting with banks. I was talking to a partner about coming on. And I remember we had a 14-story condo project that we were in pre-construction on at Harper that was being developed in a floodplain. And I was like, man, something's got to give here. And then the market went boom. And so fortunately, I hadn't left Harper and stayed there.
Talk about another critical point.
Another critical point. Yeah. I mean, had I left then,
wow.
It's crazy, man. All these things that happen. And so stayed put there, finished a couple projects, and then during the downturn, our president was our main business development guy, and so they needed somebody to go out there.
Which is who?
Doug Harper was kind of the lead. He was our
Those guys
president.
Are great guys. We've done some work with them over the years.
Yeah, amazing group, and they've grown tremendously since I left, and so I took over. I was our first director of business development. And so that kind of got me into the sales world and more outbound, because one of the things about running construction projects is, man, it's so intense, it's so detailed, you got to be in the mix. And it was fun to go be kind of out of the mix a bit and start networking and getting to know people in the industry, and that was great. And then in 2011, I was the itch was there again, and I know
do your own thing.
Yeah, like go out and do this. And I knew there was an opportunity for me at Harper. I could stay there and have an amazing career, but I knew that this was there, and so I started searching around for. I started talking to people in other industries and people in technology and people in I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And funny enough, I actually had a friend of mine say, "Hey, Chris, have you ever talked to your father-in-law about TPM before?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't." I'm kind of over here and they're over here. He was working in the business, my wife was working in the business, and I'd never thought about working at TPM. And my father-in-law, so a friend told me to go talk to him. And then what I came to learn after the fact is that he was actually having very similar conversations with friends of his about needing to succeed or sell the company. And my wife had just gotten pregnant with our second child and was looking for, all right, well, what's next? And they said, well, have you talked to your son-in-law, Chris? Because I think he's looking. And so anyway, that brought us together over lunch, and that kind of set us off to where we are today.
Yeah, I love hearing this. That's the best part of my job, is knowing people's story and how they get to where they are. So I just would challenge our listeners just for a moment. Maybe hit pause, maybe you file it away. But there's a couple of things I've heard already from you that I think is really important. Looking back on these critical junctures, inflection points in your life, and if you can go back and track your timeline, I used to do that with people. It's like, hey, when you were born, and what were these critical moments along your life that have shaped who you are and shaped your story and shaped your perspective? And doing that kind of gives you insight of, here's how I think, and here's what I believe, and here's what's really important, and how that's developed grit. And so maybe a good takeaway for you as listeners is to go ahead and write down some of these critical inflection points and look back and how has that shaped you and how has that put you in a position one way or the other. And the other thing I hear that I just want to continue to hammer on, we talk about pursuing your passion. And I just hear you I know who you are, I know your heart, and that's still present, but even at an early age, hey, just had that itch. And paying attention to that in our lives, what continues to inspire you and how can you grow. I love kind of hearing that to get you where you are, and I know that's still present today. So just want to stop there for just a moment. So you joined TPM.
What if I could add to that, just
please.
One thing just on the side is I think that so taking the time to go back and understand all these inflection points. The biggest thing that it's done for me is it's given me confidence in anything that's ahead. So the other thing is I got rejected from UGA. I want to go to Georgia to college. I didn't get in. I ended up going to Clemson.
Wow.
Well, if I would have gone to Georgia, no military, no Harper, no wife, no kids, no all the things I'm doing today. And so I look back at that moment and I was like, man, I wanted to go to Georgia. My family went to Clemson, so I had great ties at Clemson, and it was great. Like, I love Clemson. But I went back, and in that moment of rejection, like, I remember feeling just like this pain and like, what's going to happen? But now looking back on that was literally probably one of the biggest inflection points that changed my life.
Wow.
And so for me now, like, the way that I kind of think about that forward, and I think for your listeners, is just that you never know what's going to come from the good or bad experiences that we have today. And so that's given me so much perspective and confidence that whatever I come across, whatever challenge I face, the reality is some pretty good stuff might come out of it.
Yeah, I love when Tony Bennett, the coach of Virginia who just retired, they lost the first round of the NCAA, first number one seed ever lose to a 16 seed. And the very next year they came back and won. And he said, adversity, if handled correctly, can be the ticket to places you never even dreamed you could go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it doesn't mean we aren't human. Doesn't mean it's not disappointing or discouraging in the moment. But I keep walking forward in faith, believing that something good can come out of this.
Right.
And
That's right.
Yeah, and I love that response. So that wouldn't have happened. And the other piece I think is so important, you've heard me talk a lot about self-efficacy, that I believe I have what it takes. And there's a lot of different ways we build self-efficacy, and the research supports is. One is mastery experiences. And whether those were mastery experiences or not, they were still experiences that prepared you for the present moment. Mm-hmm. Because what that internal self-talk, what I hear in that is, I can pretty much handle about anything. I can figure it out because I've been through really difficult things. One of the things we do with clients is we ask them, hey, what's the most difficult experience you've ever had in your life? what's the most challenging thing you faced? And most of the time, it is not the issue around business, or it's not the issue about getting beat in sports. It's a much bigger issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing how those times can just define you. And I think about our company today, and we had a meeting the other day, and we asked everybody in the company, all right, give me a 1 through 10. How was your week this week in the business? And then give me a 1 through 10 and how your week was personally. And the average of the business was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Like everyone had a great week, but the average of the personal was like 5. And we kind of poked around. I had people that were 2s. I had people that were 3s. And what was comforting in that is that we all are going through stuff, and we're not alone, right? I'm not the only person to get rejected from Georgia. I'm not the only person that has to go through experience-based learning. Like, these people inside of my company, they're not the first people to go through these things. And so I think there's some comfort in that as well. And then to your point is just knowing that, there's good stuff on the other side of this. And how can I use this experience to learn and to grow and, getting uncomfortable, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, baby. It's like that's how you get better. And so,
but again, I love how you use that opportunity to connect meaningfully with your team. Two, you and I even talked about this earlier, vulnerability produces oxytocin, and we're all human. And sometimes we forget that. And that's why, us here, we talk all the time, what is it for you to gain the world if you lose your soul in the process?
Right.
And I love how you've tried to hold on to the family business, but run that at TPM. So I keep getting away from inflection points, but I'm back to the start of TPM. What else am I missing?
Blown up the podcast.
But this
different direction.
It's so powerful. What else? What am I missing here as we kind of get in this journey at TPM? What are some of these other inflection points? And I appreciate your honesty and courage to share those.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, coming in, I think that, one of the things at TPM, I came in and my father-in-law, who owned the company, started in 1973, right? This was his. So my wife was born in 82. TPM was born in 73. So my wife's always said that TPM is her older brother, right? That she has this love-hate relationship with, and but it's this amazing company that's provided for her family and now our family, today. And so I think there was a very humbling opportunity that I have to come into a business that's established and really begin to make it my own. And it was a really neat time in the business where it was time for a fresh look. It was time for a new perspective, a new vision, a new thought process, and new teams coming in, because we had people retiring from the business that had been there from the beginning. And so it was this really cool point, and for somebody that likes to build and change things. Like, I think if I would have come into that company and everything was great, it probably would not have given me the same love and passion I have for it today. But it came in, and it was like this awesome organization that just was ready for the next evolution. And I was able to kind of take that and make changes and make it my own, but then also kind of honor this legacy of where we came from. And so, I think that was just kind of in general, this freedom to come into this company and have the opportunity to make my mark and my stamp.
Yeah, and I Jerry, I love your father-in-law and Brenda and your wife, and it is an older brother. I mean, a family business like no other, and I love Jerry's story. Talk about grit and perseverance of how he started and what he overcame and how he built it. I imagine, talk to some of our listeners about walking into maybe a family-owned business, walking into a business where there's stability, leadership, a big presence. I mean, Jerry, I just see him smiling now and going, fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. But he carries such a presence. How did you, one, honor him? Two, how did you have the confidence to put your stamp on it? And how do you continue to navigate those family relationships?
Yeah, So I think there's a lot there. I think a couple things, just thinking out loud. So, Harper was a family business, and so I was able to be in this family business where the father, really the son and the grandson of the original founder, but Doug was kind of the guy that was running the company, and he was taking the next evolution. His daughter worked in the business; she was a peer of mine in the company, and I saw what it was like to work for a family business, and I think they did a beautiful job of it. But I also was able to be an employee. I think that one of the things that helped me at TPM is I didn't come right out of college as the son-in-law. I went and I was able to go gain experience and perspective. And that's some things that I tell friends and family and people that are pursuing work is like, when you get out of school, man, it's about getting experience, man. It's about going out there and like learning what you like and what you don't like. And then it takes time to ultimately cultivate that into what could be like your own thing. And I don't think a lot of 20-year-old people realize that, because when I was 20-something, I was like, man, I'm ready to start my company. Like, I want to go do these things. But I'm so grateful that I didn't, because it gave me so much more experience that I could apply to the business. So when I came into TPM, even though I was a member of the family, per se, I went in almost with the mindset of I was like this hired president, okay. As opposed to like, this is my family business. Obviously, there's an emotional connection there because my wife and my father-in-law, and so I think that helped me as well. Is just to come in with a different perspective than maybe a normal family member would have,
but a different mindset.
Right.
Like I'm here to add value, and again, the self-efficacy is I believe I have value, and these other experience and inflection points have prepared you for that moment.
Right. Yeah. No. I think 100%, and I think that. So coming into the business, I'm friends with lots of like business owners. I'm part of a business owner network. Like I talk to lots of family businesses, lots of them, and there's a couple things that made our transition simpler than any other transition I've seen in family business. But the one thing is that the entrepreneur, the owner, my father-in-law, was willing to give up the reins for the next generation in leadership. And he knew, and he always told me, he's like, Chris, there can't be two leaders in the business. So either I got to do it or you got to do it. And I was like, got it, I'm going to do it. and I see like so many family businesses where there's this struggle where there's multiple generations, the leader, the founder, the CEO that's trying to pass it along doesn't give up the reins. They still want to be involved. And that if anything is what's caused so much turmoil in family businesses. So when I came into the company and Jerry's like, all right, man, like it's either you or me, and
because Jerry's got a big personality, he's got a lot of pride. Why do you think he was just ready? Why do you think he just like, hey, it can't be like?
Yeah, it's funny. I think Jerry, amazing story, like rags to riches story of never went to college. He went to tech school, got out of tech school, worked as a draftsman. Started a company with $700 to his name. First business blew up. I mean, literally his building burned down with a partner. He had to restart the company. I mean, this guy's been through it all and has ultimately been through and built this company. So people would look at him and be like, high school diploma, whatever, doesn't have these experiences. But yet he's a brilliant guy that has been able to build this business. And but he's a very emotional and passionate guy, right? And I think his passion is what got him to where he was in the company. And so I think that when I came in, I think he was honestly, I think he was very smart. I think he said he allowed his brain to overtake what his heart was telling him, because he will tell you it was also the single hardest thing he's ever had to experience. Ever, and still to this day. But he was smart enough to know that for the health of the business, you can't have two leaders in there, and so he has to figure out a way to step aside. So I credit him for that decision that ultimately gave me the freedom. And then my wife was working there, and she was pregnant with our second child, and she decided that she didn't want to run the company, wanted to still be active, and so she worked there for a number of years, and we worked together as a family. So yeah, I think there was just a lot there, but I think ultimately just being able to give some freedom. And then I'm an individual that, man, I'm gonna take it and run, man. Like you give me the ball, I got it. Like I'm ready to roll. So
and so it does take a lot on Jerry, especially when you're the founder. And we know so many people have a hard time separating who they are from what they do. And I appreciate Jerry's courage with humility to say, hey, like, you can't have two leaders. It can't be me. And I'm gonna humble myself and say, no, you got to go lead the company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so taking your own, I can remember on Antrim Drive, you were sitting in my conference room, and you start, hey, Milt, this is what I'm thinking. I got to kick off, and hey, I got this thing called Vivid Vision 2022. Right, so this is 2017 because it's a 5-year vision.
Yeah, that's right.
2017. I think I did the kickoff in 2018 in January.
That's it.
And you started building out. You were the president at the time, and I love this. Obviously we talk a lot about vision. It says in Proverbs, where there's no vision, the people will perish. And so you laid out a vision for here's where we want to be in 2022. Right now, I think we're on Vivid Vision. I got it right here. Vivid Vision 2027.
Right.
We had the blue ocean in 2030. Before we talk about the importance of vision and the fundamental principles, this idea of vision and dreaming it and creating it, help me understand where'd you learn that and why do you think that's so important?
Yeah, I think probably twofold. Just right off the cuff. So in construction, I was a project manager, and I like to see things built. Project management gave me some framework of how to build things, and it taught me. When a construction project, you have a set of plans and a milestone of what you're trying to accomplish, and then your goal is to build a team and schedule and hold people accountable to ultimately achieve that vision. So for me, it's a formula. It's that's where I'm going. This is what I need to do today. This is what I need to do tomorrow, so on and so forth, and I track progress to my goal. So for me, I think my kind of the training in project management taught me the formula aspect of it. But then taking that to a company and trying to implement that, I think one of the things that I've always tried to do is I just realize I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I've got to surround myself with the very best people. And I remember this is in college. I was friends with a guy, and he was talking about just surrounding people that are smarter, surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you and better than you. And not to say better, but they've achieved more. Or they're further ahead in life. And those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with if you want to grow. And so I've always gone back and remembered that, I'm going to learn faster by being around people that are farther ahead than me. Mm-hmm. So in that, I've always been open for coaching and insight. So when I took this, opportunity at TPM, I'd never run a company before. I'd never hosted a town hall meeting before. I've never done a kickoff meeting before. But, I was like, well, I'm going to go figure this out. So I spent lots of time talking to presidents and CEOs, and Vivid Vision actually came from a CEO that I heard speak at a conference earlier that year who had basically figured out a way to document what he was wanting to achieve, to actually put your vision down into thoughts. And so, at that time I was like, all right, I know how to run, a team and kind of get structure and stuff. I know how to potentially create a vision. I've never created one for a business. Let me go talk to my friends and peers and figure out how the heck to do this. And then from there, I'm going to start, right? And every year, I've built on the learnings we've created. Now we're on our third Vivid Vision, and have seen really the value in putting some goals out there for folks to rally around and to get excited about. And I think that just in general, we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Yes. We want to participate. Yes. We want to help grow. We want to improve. And so when you can give a team of people, whether it's a small team, it's my kids, it's a company, it's an organization, whatever, when you can give them something that they can rally around one common vision, I've seen just the performance increase like dramatically. The culture increases, performance increases. You can always rally back to that.
Yeah, you get buy-in, you get engagement, you get purpose, you get people feeling that they are contributing to something and they have a common goal and a common vision, and we're aligned and reminding we're on the same team, whether that's a family or whether that's a business. Why do you think most companies don't do it, or where do you see them falling short?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I was thinking about. I know you'll appreciate the quote from Dabo. We went and I heard him speak, and I'm sure y'all probably kind of coached on all of this, but. He was talking about the NIL stuff, and Clemson's just participating differently than other schools are, and he's talking about people ask me why are you doing, why aren't you doing this stuff? And he's like, I don't know, but this is what we do. Like, this is just what we do, and it works. And I can't answer the question. I don't know why more companies don't see the value in a vision. I don't understand a vision for your life, a vision for your business, and the value in communicating that. And when people come into our business, and I'm not a prideful person, and not coming across like, I take what we do for granted sometimes. I just kind of think this is the way everybody thinks. Yeah. And I have vendors and customers and people come into our company and new hires, and they're like, I hear you talking about all this culture, family, vision stuff, but yeah, we'll see if that's actually the case. Well, it is. Like, this is how we live. This is what we do. And I've realized that most organizations don't take this sort of stuff as serious as we do in where are we heading, and our success principles and our mission statement, and what are we really rallying around. And just one of the things I've learned, man, is you can have a successful business with 5 people, with 50 people, with 500 people, with 5,000 people. It doesn't really matter. The products and services are important, but they don't really matter. It's all about just getting great people that want to be around each other and a great culture, right?
Yeah. And what I appreciate is your intentional commitment to understanding the vision, massage the vision, giving yourself permission for the vision to change. And where we see people fall short is, one, we need to talk about this as well. Most people don't do a vision for their life. But 2, they go through this exercise of a vision and mission because somebody told them they should. And they don't have values that support the vision or the mission. And it's about, I love what Simon Sinek talks about, we create a vision statement of very egocentric. It's like, I'm going to be the best, or we're going to be the best. And it's not about that. It's more from the heart. Why do we exist? Why does our work have meaning? And people will buy into that. Mm-hmm. And then where you have done a great job around TPM is, hey, here's our vision. I go back to, I love some of, hey, what's our trademark? Thinking. What do we have? Great expectations. Nothing will happen unless you have. This is our very first meeting.
Yeah.
And our focus is about service. But I love the values. Right? C.S. Lewis said, education without values only seems to make man a more clever devil. And so we can have a clear vision, but without the values to support that, we're going to fall short.
Yeah.
And so Vivid Vision 2022 is so good. Our people, our family culture, a Southeastern focus. One of the things I love, a big company resources with a small company feel. Have I got that right?
Yep, you got it.
Focus on our customers and products and solutions and financial and operations and community. So talk to me a little bit about how you have seen that vision come to life. 1, you're living it out. But 2, how has the vision changed over time to 2022 to 2027 to where we're going? How has that changed?
Yeah, I think, I think just anything like an individual purpose statement, a vision for a company, that goalpost has to move. Like it has to be able to evolve and change because the market changes. There's things that you just can't foresee coming next year or the year ahead. So, one of the things that was very important in our Vivid Vision is it didn't have a revenue goal. It didn't say we were going to be this dollar amount. It just said we were going to be kind of in this range. And so it was important for me that the Vivid Vision talked more about the type of company we were going to be as opposed to how much revenue we were going to produce or how many employees.
Yeah, that's a goal.
Right.
The revenue, and that's a byproduct of are we living out the vision. It's who do we want to be? How do we want to be? What do we want to be known for? How much money we make and how many people, that's a byproduct of are we living considered the vision.
Yeah, and I think also that the vision and the values can be unchanged or they can be tweaked and augmented. Revenue goals can change. This year we're in the 3D printing space. We had major shakeups with some vendors and changes in the market. It changed our revenue profile in 3D printing. Well, that could blow up a revenue goal for a particular vision. So it was important to me that our Vivid Vision really described the type of company that we were trying to create. And one of the things that did evolve over time is that some of the things that were in our Vivid Vision became an enhancement to our mission statement. And so there was an inflection point I remember that I had in a planning season one year. And the decision was, do we want to update the mission statement? And the mission statement, our company was founded in 73. I think Jerry wrote the mission statement with a friend's help in the mid to late 70s, so a little bit later in the 70s. And, the question mark was, are we going to change it? Because it's missing a few things. And, I was very uneasy around changing it because I look at it as a piece of our legacy and what got us to be where we are today. And I decided that some of the things that we were talking about in the vision statement were not in replacement of, but were really in support of our mission statement. And so one of the things that we did, I think maybe 4 years ago, is we released our success principles. And it was basically taking some of the things that were in the Vivid Vision and making it a supplementary part of our mission statement. So we have our mission statement, but then we have our success principles and believing in being unique and leading by example and some of the things, being family centric, taking care of our customers, et cetera. And so the blend of those two things, we're able to more stamp that. And so then, we printed them out on plaques. Every new hire gets them. They're on everybody's desk. And so that was an evolution where this vivid vision, we started talking about these themes that ultimately needed to be more concrete in who we are as a business. And that became our success principles. And then now we look out, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and just make sure we know what's coming up and just have an idea of what's in the future, because it helps us make better decisions in the business today, knowing where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, so when I know the vision, I get excited about how is it going to come to life. And we talk about the values, and those are your success principles. How do we operationalize those? Like if we commit to these and living this way, then guess what? Our vision has a pretty good chance of coming to life, and we're going to live it out through our mission. And so it's all well put together and well thought out, and it gives people a chance to buy in. So as we were just kind of prepping a little bit before we walked into here, you talked about another critical moment. The revelation kind of hit you. I got a really good vision for my business. I got a really good vision for our company, for our organization, and where we're going, that maybe you didn't have one for your life. So talk about how you've taken these principles and applied them to creating a vision or purpose for your life.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like growing up, even in the fraternity in college and in all my experience in career, like it was very common for me to be like, okay, well, the company or this needs a vision, and then we're going to create a plan to get there. In construction, all right, let's get the set of plans and all this sort of stuff, and we're going to create a plan to get there. But really up until a couple of years ago, and some of the work that we did together, was why am I not doing this for my life and my family? And, I've got 2 young kids, and how am I guiding them and what's important? And so, there's this conversation of, I know how to run a business. I know how to set a vision for the business, and I'm not doing a bad job in my life, but to take the next step in evolution of my life, I've got to apply some of these same principles, because I've seen it work. And I think that's the thing that, just in my now almost 14 years at TPM, is I've put these things in place and I've seen them work. And so then it makes me more passionate about it to throw fuel and gas on it.
You know what? So I look back at my notes, and I love quotes. Success leaves clues is what I wrote here. The Vivid Vision 2022. And it's like, I know this stuff works. That was a John Maxwell quote. Success leaves clues. And you start paying attention to the clues. Like, okay, what are the other areas of my life I can put this into practice?
Yeah. And so it was so healthy for me to. So we, you and I sat down and talked about what something like this would look like, and so I workshopped through and created ultimately what was an individual purpose statement. And it was funny. There's kind of 2 applications to this, and I'll shelf my individual one for a second. But the business owners in our company or companies are my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my wife, and I. Like, it's the 4 of us, and we all have different interests and desires and outcomes that we're wanting in the business. And one of my jobs as the CEO and the leader of this is to synthesize all that into something that we can take action on. Because one of the things I need like clarity in order to take action. Like I got to have it. And so one of the things that we did probably 2 years ago is really went to each person individually and asked them, like, what do you want in the business? Like, what do you want this to become? And then we were able to create 4 kind of individual goals and objectives and visions for the company, and then we married that together. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, I brought that together into the Cooper family vision for the business, and then the Fay family one, and then I married those together into one family. And so I took all these various pieces and we created this slide that says, this is where we're going, and as long as we're all good on this, we're going to have to give a little bit on what we want, but we're all going to be going the same direction. And that established a vision for our family. And so in kind of concert with that project, I was working on this individual purpose statement for my life. And, one of the sessions I remember with you and I is, I will be was kind of it. And you're like, no, it's I am, right? And it puts it in the common state. And so, you'll be proud of me. I had a college student come to the office the other day and was talking to her about, career and all this. And I said, there's 2 things that hang on my office when you walk in my office right now. And there's my favorite quote from Gandhi, right? So my beliefs are thoughts to words to actions to habits to values, and then values to destiny. But you have to understand where your destiny is and what you want that to become. And that's the other thing that's on my office, which is my individual purpose statement. And it talks about being a happy, healthy, family-centered leader, that faithfully builds organizations, teams, and individuals through bold humility, perspective, and grace. And what I told her is each one of those words has significant value to me in what I want my life to become. And if that's what I want my life to become, the first thing I need to impact is my belief that I can get there. And I just really talked to her about the blend of those two things together. And then same thing, success leads clue. I've seen that how documenting a vision for my life has fundamentally changed my day-to-day and my beliefs and the way that I speak and the way that I act and the way and my habits and values. And so it's been like transformative for me. And I think it's something that most people, because I've gone to people in my company, hey, individual purpose statement, here's the reasons why, like we're going to workshop through this. And I don't think it's natural for us to do that. It puts you outside of your comfort zone to actually create a vision for your life. It's very tactical and expected that you do it for a business, but it's not tactical and expected when you do it for your life. So I think it pushes people outside of their comfort zone. And, we talk about like getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like that's where growth comes from. And like for me, that was something that I did a number of years ago. And we've had a number of people in our business that have taken me up on that request. And it's just kept that North Star alive for me and my business and my life and my family of where I want to go. And it always brings me back to help drive my decision making. And I think that ultimately when we talk about a vision, you talk about a mission statement, you talk about success principles, you talk about individual purpose statement, it's really just giving you guidelines for how to make decisions in your life.
Yeah, we started with, hey, minimize regret. Is a little bit of where you talk about, I got the military, I got a family, and I look at your purpose statement now, that fits so much more in line with that than a career in the military. And I love how I've started teaching this is I had my daughter McKee on here not long ago, and we talked about going through rush. And the question I asked her is, what are the words you want to describe you? How do you want to show up? And I love as you talk through your vision statement, a happy, healthy husband full of grace, faithfully build. Those are words that have meaning to you, and they inspire you, and you've imprinted those in your heart and your mind, and that's the picture your mind seeks to develop. Doesn't mean you're perfect, doesn't mean the vision is going to come to life, but it's something we're always aspiring for.
Right. And I think that, one of the things I've realized in business and in life is we're constantly challenged. There's things that come in conflict with a company's vision and success principles, and it come in conflict with an individual purpose statement of what we're trying to achieve. And if you don't have it documented, if I don't have a vision and values, it's so much harder to answer those questions and deal with those challenges that come your way. And like one of our success principles is we work to make our customers truly successful. And so if a challenge comes up with a customer, we can go immediately to that. Are we handling this that's going to ultimately yield success for that customer long term? Like, are we ultimately are we working to make that person successful? And it might mean that we don't do business with them. It might mean that we give them their money back. It might mean that we push harder in challenging them. But I think it gives you so much better guidelines to deal with some of the challenges that we face day to day. And without that,
without that, you're going to fall victim to emotions. Right. And so we don't make decisions great when we're emotional. Right. It's as you think, so you are, not as you feel, so you think. That's really important. Or two, the tyranny of the urgent. Right. We just make a decision to satisfy the decision. Or three, we start playing somebody else's game.
Right.
And we're trying to live up to these expectations, and we aren't consistent. And so then that creates a lot of chaos.
I agree.
In our life and in our business.
And I think, and you mentioned, you talk about like other people. We're all different. We're all wired differently. We all want different things. We talk about like this jealousy and envy of other people is this like thief of joy, and it's because you're trying to live somebody else's life. But if you're really core and true to what you want to live in your life, then you don't have to worry about the other people, what they're going.
And I think that is really good advice, because I've seen you be able to do that I can honor Jerry and Casey and Brenda. I can honor my parents. I can honor others. But, hey, these are my gifts and these are my strengths and this is my vision. And giving yourself permission to be human, to be who you were created to be, unconsciously gives others permission to do the same.
Yeah.
And we can have that appreciation. So a couple more questions here. One, this balance of honoring tradition, honoring Jerry, honoring the founder, honoring TPM, and we didn't have machines back then, right? I mean, we didn't have the technology with, you said it earlier, balancing, honoring the legacy with a focus on innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? How do how do you appreciate where you've been without being limited or holding on to some of those key factors?
Yeah, I think part of it is just, you talk about like success leaving clues, and one of the things, my father-in-law and I are very different individuals, and like our personalities and the way that we live, right? But what I know is that at the very foundation and the core is that we're very aligned. Like we think very much alike. We just do it different ways,
Yes.
right? And I think that one of the things that I have the benefit of at TPM is coming into a company that's been around in existence for some time, and so they weren't around for 30. They were 38 years when I came in. So they weren't around for 38 years because they were doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And yet the market, the industry is shifting and changing. And so I was conflicted internally because I'm out there like listening and learning from all these businesses that don't have the depth of the culture or the history that we have, making certain decisions with a different mindset than we have. Meanwhile, I'm trying to preserve a legacy and a company and this culture that I take very seriously. And I think there was just kind of a point by which I was like, you know what? We should be able to do both. There's no reason that we can't preserve the legacy and the reason that we got here and the sincere love and care for our TPM family and the people inside of the business, and also still innovate towards the future. And one of the things in our mission statement that Jerry wrote a number of years ago is changing, embracing change and changing on a weekly and daily basis. So that was part of our DNA, and the company needed a change agent to come in and help take it to the next level. So one of the things we talk about is this balance of legacy and innovation, and it's how we grow.
Yeah.
If we lose sight of who we are as a business and we abandon the legacy of what got us to where we are today, we are so much weaker as an organization. Similarly, if we fail to innovate and change as the market changes, we are so much weaker as a business. But ultimately, to have the most strong, sustainable company, we have to have the balance of both. And so we've been very forward about that. We talked to our employees about that, people that have been there for years, new people in the company, and making them understand that. And I think most people, at least people that want to be a part of our company, really appreciate that.
Yeah, so good. And I think we talk all the time, we were laughing, earlier, you said on my whiteboard, I think that first meeting is dreams greater than memories.
Yeah, that's right.
On that curve. And I love the way you've brought that language to life at TPM and TrebleHook and, building for the future. And so where are you trying to grow? How are you, I guess maybe threefold here. I keep asking three questions. Where's the business going? How are you trying to grow the business? I just threw out TrebleHook. We haven't even mentioned that today. And then personally, how are you continuing to grow as a leader, grow as a man in accordance with your vision? So talk to us a little bit about growth.
Yeah, so first off, I think for me it goes back to my purpose statement, and I really enjoy leadership. I enjoy leading, whatever it is, and I enjoy building things. I love inspiring growth in other people, and whatever that means. And so I've been fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to lead this organization that satisfies all that. I can build and inspire. I can practice grace and perspective, but also with bold humility. I can talk freely about faithfully building this inside of my organization. And so I've surrounded myself with an environment that is completely supportive of my individual purpose statement. And so one of the things, just in business, you're pressured with, well, gosh, they sold their company and they took on private equity, and these people did this and these people did that, and the peer pressure to conform in the business world, especially in the tech space, which is where we are, is like enormous. But what I realize is all of that is in conflict with what I want my life to be. And so we've just made a decision. Like, I love work. I love what we're doing. And what I want to do is just keep doing it. And I want to keep growing. I don't want to stay static. I want to keep innovating. I want to keep pushing forward. I want to keep leading teams and building, inspiring change. And like, if I can continue to do that, there's no telling where our business will go. And so, one of the things that we've done is we've got a new startup company. We're 3 years in now, but company called TrebleHook, and we built a CRM purpose built for architecture, engineering, construction companies. It's the perfect blend of all of my expertise. Building a company, having a vision. I know sales, I know construction and architecture, I know software and tech and deployment. And so it took me I'm 43 now, so I founded that company when I was 40. It took me 40 years years to ultimately craft something that is truly the perfect blend of all of my experiences together. And so now we're scaling that. And so, man, I've got this like business that this foundational business has been around for some time. We have this like startup company. We've spun out another business, and I just realized like I'm just having so much fun, and so I want to keep doing it all. And that's in conflict with what a lot of people outside would tell you. They'd say, double down, focus, get rid of the distractions, go do this. Well, it's because they're trying to sell the company in 3 years. I'm not trying to sell the company in 3 years. And so for me, I just want to fulfill my vision and have fun every day. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Another one of my favorites, Thoreau said, success comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. And what I love, and I appreciate the privilege to be a part of this, I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us today. And I can hear it, I can feel it, I can see it. And the work you're doing, think about this, you as a listener, if the work you're doing and the life you're living does not inspire you, it won't inspire anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I see that in your vision to be an inspired leader with bold humility, and I see how it plays out. And I'm excited to kind of see the vision come to life. So I appreciate you so much for your wisdom, and I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you being a guest today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that, Milt.
Yeah.